everyone, and welcome to Business Boutique. I'm Christy Wright, and today we are talking about how to launch a product, launch a service, launch a new business. But before we dive in, I have to start by giving you a fun example. So several months ago, my team was giving me a hard time because they say I'm never here in the office. Now, it's true. A lot of times I'm offsite. I'm in video shoots or in meetings or offsite writing at a coffee shop. So they're just giving me a hard time. Oh, Christy, you're never here. You're never here. Well, in this particular week, I was here a lot. We were launching a really big project. And so I was here every day, all day, late into the night. And they just kept saying, oh, we love it when you're here. We love it having you around. It's so much more fun when you're here in the office. So on the next Monday, I'm going to show up and I'm going to surprise them with donuts. In my mind, this was the best idea. So I decided to drive through, pick up a box of donuts, and the whole drive here, I'm just imagining how excited they're going to be. I'm going to show up at a time when they don't expect me to be in the office, and I'm bringing them a surprise. I've got donuts. This is going to be the best Monday morning ever. So y'all, I get out of my car, I grab my donuts, I go rushing up to the office with my box of donuts, bust through the door like Kramer on Seinfeld. Ta-da! Nothing. Not a single person was in the office. Apparently, I had chosen a time when every single person in my team was in another meeting or somewhere else. Now, here's the thing. The donuts were still good later when we decided to eat them and laugh about this funny story. But you know what? It's interesting because it's kind of like that when we launch things in our business, right? We get this idea. We get really excited about our idea. We get all this anticipation and excitement and build up, and then we launch, and it's crickets. It's like me running into the office with my box of donuts, and no one was there. It completely flops, and we don't know what went wrong, and we don't know why that happened. You know, launching something new is both an art and a science. There are certain things you must do if your launch is going to be successful, and that is the science part. But then there are other things that you can get creative and try and experiment, and that is the art part. Now, in this show, I'm going to show you 3 things that you need to do if you're going to have a successful launch, whether it's a new product or a new project, or maybe it's just your entire business. You want to make sure that you have these 3 things. So let's dive in. The first thing that you need to have are relationships. Now, this probably seems really obvious, but let's talk about why that's important in a launch. You may not know this, but 60% of sales occur after the 4th interaction. People buy from those they know, like, and trust, which means that if you want people to buy from you, they need to know you, like you, and trust you. They need to have a relationship with you. So if you're going to launch anything, a product, a service, a business, you need to have someone to launch to. You need to have existing relationships. Even if they're not current customers, you need to have existing relationships that you're going to launch to so that those people can buy from you and so they can share with their friends that don't know you, like you, or trust you about you, and they can buy from you too. See, you can't have a successful launch if you don't have people to launch to. And you can't launch to people if you haven't spent time cultivating those relationships. People are not going to buy from you. They're not going to show up and make your launch successful if they've never heard of you before, if they don't know you, like you, or trust you. So the first thing you've got to have if you're going to have a successful launch are relationships. You need good relationships. Now, I will tell you, if you're launching your business for the first time, don't get intimidated because you might be thinking, well, I don't have any customers. That's fine. You can even use your personal Facebook account, your personal email list. You can ask for support from family and friends and that type of thing. And they can even leverage their social media accounts or their personal email list to help you get started. The bottom line is you just need people. You need relationships if this launch is going to work. So I want you to think through, who are you launching to? Maybe you have an existing customer base. Maybe you have an existing fan base online. Maybe it's just a family and friends or your church community or your full-time job work community. That's totally fine. I just want you to think through who it is if this launch is going to be successful. Otherwise, it's like you walking into an empty room with a big box of donuts, so excited, and no one is there. So the first thing you need for this launch to work are relationships. Now, the second thing you need is a date. See, here's the thing about a launch. A launch is an event. Events happen on certain dates. It's not a season. It's not a year. It happens at a specific moment in time. Now, this is really important when you're launching something because it helps you understand how your market perceives your launch. If you do this gradual rollout, it's going to go unnoticed. But if you pick a date, if you pick a moment in time and you make this launch an event that happens on that date, at that time, then it becomes this big thing that people get excited about. Because people get excited about events. They dress up for events. They put events on their calendars and they don't miss them. That's why your launch must be an event. It's going to be something that your customers are going to think about and talk about and plan for. They're not going to forget about it if you make it an event. Now, it has to happen on a certain date. It doesn't have to happen at a certain time, but you need to think through what date this launch is going to occur. And don't think of it as a small thing. Think of it as a really big, important thing because it is. Because if you think of it as a small thing, as something that's just kind of passive, that's optional, that's exactly how your customers will treat it as well. When you're picking your date, you also want to think about things going on in your business and the world. Make sure it's a good time for your customers, for your business, whatever's going on in current events, that it's not competing with a ton of stuff out there. The bottom line is you want to think of your launch as an event. And events happen on dates. So if you want this launch to be successful, you not only need relationships, you need a specific date. All right, now the third thing that you need if you want your launch to be successful is anticipation. Think about a vacation. Half of the fun of a vacation is anticipating it. Like in the cold winter months, you're thinking about that beach vacation. Oh, if I could just be on some beach somewhere with my toes in the sand and a drink in my hand. Am I right? Right? Like you anticipate it, you dream about it, you think about it. That's half the fun. And it's interesting because anticipation is powerful. Research actually shows that when we have time to anticipate something, we actually enjoy it more when it actually occurs. Isn't that interesting? Now, you need anticipation in your launch. You now have a date, so you can build up all this anticipation to that specific date. You can create all type of excitement and teases and marketing and buzz and interest leading toward that specific date. Your goal is to build up all the anticipation that you possibly can. Remember, it's not just a date. It's an event, and we are going to get excited about this event, about this launch that is happening on that date. So what you want to do is after you pick your date, you're going to drill that date into your customers' minds. You're going to say it over and over and over again. You're going to do everything you can to build it up so much that they can't forget about it. They can't miss it. And oh my gosh, they are just daydreaming about it like they are daydreaming about the beach. They are so excited about this event that you have created. Now, you can do this in a lot of different ways. You can do it through your marketing, through social media, through email campaigns, branding on your website, promotions, giveaways, word of mouth marketing, you name it. The bottom line is you build up lots of anticipation around that date. Now, I want to give you a real life example. Many of you probably noticed that we just had a huge launch for our Business Boutique Academy. This went on last week, and in the months leading up to this event, this date, the date that the Academy was going to open on March 18th, we created so much excitement. There were videos and blogs and Insta stories and build up. And then once the date was here, oh my gosh, it was this big, exciting celebration because the Academy was open. Now, these are things that we actually do, and we do them because they work. But you know what? They can work for you too. If you want to have a successful launch, you need people to launch to, you need relationships. You also need a date that this event is going to occur. Remember, it's not just a launch, it's an event. And then you need anticipation and buildup and excitement leading to that launch. If you do those three things, your next launch will be a huge success. All right, we've got a call coming in from Teddy in Vancouver, British Columbia. I love Vancouver. How's it going, Teddy?
It's going good. Thank you for taking my call, Christy.
Yeah, how can I help?
So I started my side business as a digital marketing consultant just over a year ago, and it has been really successful, growing through word of mouth and referrals and partnerships. But now I've reached a point where right now I'm at my max capacity, but I have a really hard time saying no when new businesses reach out wanting to work with me. I feel like if I say no to one business, that I might not get any other referrals if I do decide to expand down the road. So my question is, how do I make boundaries for myself and maintain my sanity while still keeping the door open for a future relationship with the businesses that approach me?
Yeah, totally. Okay, you got a couple options. First of all, I totally get it because you feel like you're leaving money on the table, right? Like this is like I'm saying no to an opportunity that feels so counterintuitive, especially for those of us that are go-getters. Two things you can do. Number one, you can raise your prices because if you're in that high demand, then you can raise your prices. Like that shows you that you are worth more because the demand is there. Number two, you can schedule people further out. You can say, oh, I'd love to do business with you. The next opening I have is April 1st. We have a handyman doing some renovations in our house right now, Teddy. And whenever I booked him, whenever I was like getting a quote from him back in November, he was like, okay. He was like, well, you'll need to make your deposit as soon as possible because I'm already booked out till mid-January. And I was like, are you kidding me? It made me that much more anxious to get him my deposit, to get on his calendar because he was so good and to be able to get on his schedule. So those two things right there, schedule people further out and raise your prices. And when you do that, then you're making more money. You've got the confidence that your schedule is booked up. And then you'll probably, hopefully, have a little bit easier saying no in the meantime, because that's why we work hard, right? You want to have a life outside of work. You want to be able to enjoy your kids, your family, your free time in addition to this business that you love. But it gives you a little bit of more permission to do that when you've got the money there and you've got the schedule booked up.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Business Boutique. I'm Christy Wright, and I am so excited because today I get to share an awesome conversation with you that I had with my good friend, Stu McLaren. Stu is a membership site expert, and he is also brilliant at launching digital products online. He is also the host of the Marketing Your Business podcast. Check out my conversation with Stu McLaren. Hey everyone, and welcome to Business Boutique. I'm so excited because I get to hang out backstage with my good friend, Stu McLaren. Stu, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm so excited because you have helped Business Boutique so much, and you are really an expert on launches. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about how to launch something, launch a business, launch a product, launch an idea. So let's just start and back up, and you tell our listeners and our viewers what your business is and what you do and how you help people.
So just like Netflix and Spotify and many of the other subscription services that we all probably subscribe to, what I do is I help other businesses create more recurring revenue through memberships and subscriptions. So we help businesses who would typically sell a product one time turn it into a customer who purchases every single month. So that's what we do. We help businesses create membership sites.
I love this, and I've never asked you this before, so I'm genuinely really excited about these answers because I don't think I know this backstory, but how did you get into this? Like, where did this start for you?
So way back when, I started my career as a motivational speaker for high school and college students. And I quickly realized that there was a limit in terms of the business's potential. Schools could only afford so much. I could only speak so many times a year. You multiply the two together, and that was my cap. So I was looking for ways to expand the business, get beyond that. That ultimately led me to learning more about information marketing and being able to sell my expertise. And part of that journey, I ended up mentoring under somebody who taught me so much about growing the business. That led to a relationship where then I was behind the scenes helping people back in 2005. I'm dating myself a little bit. But I was behind the scenes helping people with launches. And this is where it was an incredible opportunity. I was in my early 20s, and I was just getting paid to learn so much about how to effectively launch products. And even back then, we were doing multi-million-dollar launches, and word spread, and people were like, well, how are you doing this? And before I knew it, I had a whole business that was built where I had clients, and this was what I was helping them do, was manage their affiliate programs, and particularly during their launches.
I remember the first time I heard of you, and it was a podcast I listened to, and you were a guest. This was probably 2 years ago. And I was just blown away by your knowledge of launches and membership sites, and we were launching the Academy. And I was like, we have to find him. I was like, where is he? Like, we have to find him and learn from him. And it's funny, it took us so long, apparently, to find you and track you down and be able to work with you because you've helped us so much since then. But it's amazing to think that it started in just these humble beginnings of you under a mentorship and kind of being thrown in the deep end, figuring it out.
That's how it all is for all of us, right?
Yeah,
Like we're just roll up our sleeves and we try stuff and we experiment. And through that, we learn a lot. And this is like why being part of your academy for your academy members is so valuable, because you can short track that learning time. It's where you can learn from other people's mistakes and other people's experiences. And that's why, investing in academy and so many other programs are important, because it can shortchange that time. But for me, it was a long road. It was a long road of learning what works with launches, what doesn't work with launches, ultimately, and then that led me to where I am now, which is where I help people specifically with membership sites. But launches is a big part of that for sure.
So let's just talk about launches. Like, let's just start at the beginning. What are some things that people probably don't know, don't understand, don't even think to ask about a launch, that maybe they want to have a launch, they want to launch a business or idea? What are some components of what makes a launch special and why we need one?
Well, let's just look at Hollywood, okay? Let's look at blockbuster movies. So they don't just all of a sudden release the movie and say, okay, the new Star Wars, it's now in theater.
Yeah, head on over.
No, it's like months and sometimes years in advance where they're creating anticipation for that opening day. And that is what is missing with so many entrepreneurs and business owners who are starting businesses and running businesses, is they just have products and they just put them out there.
That's right.
And just hope for the best. Like, it's a great product and therefore people will find it.
Right.
And that doesn't happen.
No.
And so you can have the best products in the world. There are so many great products in this world that have never been seen. And so one of the things that a launch does is it creates anticipation for an actual product release or offer that you're going to make. It's that anticipation which is what creates the excitement, and it draws the attention in to when you need it most.
So you're really backing up from before launch day. We're not talking about the launch doesn't start at launch day. That's just the day the movie's in the theater in your example. But you're talking about, we're going to create anticipation weeks, months, years. I know you talk about your launch more than a year in advance, where you're setting the expectation. Here's the date. Here's this event. It's a moment in time, and creating all this build-up anticipation, teasing it, like, here's what's coming, here's what's coming. And then when it finally comes, we're like, oh, thank goodness, finally I can buy.
Totally. It's creating excitement before the actual launch itself, so that people have that date circled on the calendar. They're rearranging their schedule to make sure that they're there for that moment. And it's why, like Apple, as an example, when they release the new version of the iPhone, they don't just all of a sudden say, ta-da, it's available. They have people lined up for days in advance to be able to get the latest version. That's all part of creating anticipation for the actual offer itself.
That's good. And it's a good lesson for us too, because when you're thinking about marketing your product or marketing whatever your thing is, you're not just thinking about launch day on and how you're going to push it once it's available. You're actually backing up way before that, creating emails, campaigns, ads, anything, any graphics that you need, any supporting marketing materials that go before launch day to help push the excitement. So that on launch day, you have the line, like Apple has the line type of thing.
One thing that you said that is really important for people to wrap their head around is that you said you're bringing people on the journey and you're sharing as you are creating. That is so important, because what happens is that when people are part of that journey, they have an invested interest in the outcome.
They like it more.
They like it more. They feel part of it. It's now their thing. It's a community thing. And so the more you can share the behind the scenes of something as it's being created, the more interested and excited people will be when it's finally released.
Yep.
And so oftentimes we want to keep things secret. We want to hold our cards close to our chest. And I'm saying no. It's actually the opposite. Share what you're doing. Involve people in the process. So even if it's like for example, when I launched my podcast, one of the things I did was I had a couple images for the podcast itself, and I put that out to the audience. I'm here. What do you guys think? You guys vote on what it is. And then I had like the opening jingle. I'm like, what music do you like? Yeah. Involving them in the process now creates more connection to what it is that we're offering. And that's a part of this, is exactly what you're saying. One of my firm beliefs is the longer the runway, the bigger the result. Meaning, the more you back this up and create anticipation for a longer period of time, the bigger result you will have when you finally get to your launch.
That's so good, and it's something that I think so many people are probably missing. They're not realizing, wow, I'm missing out on a bigger result because I don't have that runway, because I don't have that anticipation and that buildup. And so it's something so simple we can change that improves our results in our business.
Here's the other funny thing about sharing the behind the scenes. When people can see all the sweat,
Work. So much work, Stu. Let's show them. Show them the work. That's right.
The energy
That's right.
that goes into creating what we create.
That's right.
They have a greater appreciation
They
for
do.
it. And so, again, this is another reason why sharing this in advance is so important. Don't keep it close to your chest. It's probably one of your best marketing assets is actually showing what goes on behind the scenes to produce what it is you're producing.
Well, it's what you teach all the time, too, that we've talked about from a different angle of marketing. It's the story. It's you're sharing that story, and people love a story. So when I sat down to write my business boutique book, I took a selfie of me at the computer like, okay, this is it. Me in a Microsoft Word document, like, here we go. The whole experience of writing the book, editing the book, designing the book. Which cover do you like? We did that. We tested covers and tested taglines. They feel like such an owner. They feel like such a participant in the whole journey, and they love that story. And so when they hold that book, it feels like, oh, I helped pick this cover.
Yeah.
You know, I remember
I'm part of this.
That's right. Yeah. And so that's so important. And really, you've done some of that with your launch. Your whole strategy for launch is brilliant. It's amazing. So talk to us a little bit about how that came about, and then and what are the components that we need to kind of look at that make a launch successful.
So one of my good friends and brilliant business guy, his name is Ryan Levesque. And one of the things that he says, which is really important in this answer and the response to this question, is he said, emulate first and then innovate second.
That's good.
And so for me, when it comes to launches, I have absolutely emulated right from the get-go. Because the kind of the pioneer of online product launches, if you will, is another good friend. His name is Jeff Walker. And way back in 2005, when I started doing these launches, is when he started sharing these concepts. And for years, I followed to a T what he taught, and it got us incredible results. And then I started, after a while, because I had my own experience with it, I started to see ways that we could innovate.
Right.
And this is where I basically started to extend the runway, if you will. And this is what we're talking about beforehand. And what I learned was that the longer the runway, as we have shared, the bigger the result. And so I break a traditional launch down into 5 phases. Phase number 1 is what we call the connection phase. And this is where I see a lot of business owners who are missing the mark, because it's just about like, here's my product, go buy. And it's very logical, it's all appealing.
Transactional.
Very transactional.
Yeah.
There's no relationship. That's a great word for it, transactional. And what I'm suggesting is that the more you create that connection and relationship with your audience way in advance of making an offer, the more trust you create and develop. And the more trust that's there before any offer is given, the more likely they are going to buy. And so what can we do ahead of time to create trust? So the connection phase is all about that. And what we do is we brainstorm on things like our values, our beliefs, our philosophies, the things that we stand for, the things that are important to us, and we create content around that. Now, you did a phenomenal job. You and your team, did a phenomenal job of running with that concept and creating content that really connected with your audience. And so when you released your first piece of connection content, what was that feeling like to see that take off and the views that started to rack up?
Well, it was really fun, but I think one of the struggles that we felt in the beginning from a business perspective is we're so used to creating things that we can immediately, keyword being immediately, attach to an ROI. And there's no ask.
Right.
There's no ask at the end. It's not like, so go buy my book. It's just like, we're best friends. And then there goes the logo. And you're like, oh, we spent all this money on video, production, shooting, scripting, all that. But what was so amazing is what you're saying is it's this longer runway. It's creating a connection. So people gravitated towards it. It was like a magnet. It got so many views, more views than anything else we've ever created. And it felt like, oh, we're in this together. We're best friends, all that. And it started to build the foundation for what was coming next that I'm sure you'll walk us through. But it was very difficult in the beginning stages. And I'm sure many business owners struggle with this of saying, how or why should I spend money or time or effort on this thing to connect with people when I can't attach it to a direct pitch or sale or ROI? But it does. It's just a different way. It's just a longer payoff. So I think that's really important to learn.
And think of it like a relationship. Like, would you, with your husband and your kids, you're going to invest time with them. Right. You're going to spend time with them. You're going to do things with them. You're going to talk about stuff. You're connecting with them constantly. And it's the same with your clients and customers. We want to connect with them first. Connect with them when there's nothing being offered, when there's no transaction in the forefront, if you will. And that's what that whole connection phase is all about. So phase 1 is all about connecting with people, about values, beliefs, philosophies, things that you stand for. Phase number 2 is what we call the awareness phase. This is where you kind of start to shift gears. And this is one of my favorite phases, because this is all about telling stories. And this is about telling stories that show what's possible. Now, this is not a testimonial, okay? There's a big difference between a testimonial and a client story. A testimonial is, Stu is awesome, Tribe is amazing, or Christy's awesome, the Academy is incredible. That's a testimonial. The story, though, is all about them. And I don't want the viewer at the end of this actually thinking Stu is awesome or Tribe. I actually want them thinking, in my case, I want to start a membership site. Or in your case, I want to start my own.
I can do it too.
Yeah, I want them seeing what's possible so that they're starting to ask the question to themselves, like, I want to be able to do this.
If they can do it, I can do it.
And so once that question is being asked, the next logical question that they're going to ask is, well, how do I go about doing that? And now they're seeking us out versus us having to push to them. Totally different framing. That all gets created through the awareness phase. So the awareness phase is all about stories of clients, customers who were once challenged with whatever problem that your market is facing and have overcome that, and now they have come out the other side and have got this great story to tell. Now, the key thing here, though, when you're telling stories, the natural inclination is to only tell the big wins. Right? Like in my case, I would tell a story of like Patty Palmer, who in 2 years started a brand new membership site. She's an art teacher, providing lesson plans for other art teachers, and in 2 years grew that to over 5,500 members at $30 a month. That's a big win. But the reality of it is that if I only share those big wins, the vast majority of my audience are never going to relate to that. So I share the stories of like Wendy Batten. Wendy Batten launched her membership site to paint store owners, and she launched it to a tiny list of 453 people. And she welcomed 59 of them into her paint store membership, generating $2,800 a month. And that is an incredible story because that's the beginning of what so many people are going to be able to relate to. So when you're telling stories and when you're sharing the stories, you want to be very mindful of the journey that people are on to share stories of people at each stage of that journey. That's the awareness phase. The third phase is the desire phase. This is your typical product launch formula phase, where now you're really starting to shift gears. And now what you're doing is in the first video, you're talking about the opportunity. What is the opportunity available for your people? Second video, I like to shift gears and focus on the first step. Okay, they get what's possible. What do I need to do next? What's the first step? Help them get a quick win. The third is about outlining the blueprint. Like, what is the big picture? Like, where is all this going? Once they've got clarity on that, then you make the offer, which is, let me help you accomplish all of this easier and faster. That's the desire phase. Then there's the buy phase. This is your typical open cart. Now the doors are open. This is typically, for about a week, sometimes less. And this is where now you are not being shy. This is go buy.
Yeah.
And this is not the time to, kind of be coy and subtle about it. You want to come with confidence. And you want to come with confidence because what you're offering is going to help people. That's why that awareness phase with the stories is so important in my opinion. Because it's not just about, helping your audience see what's possible, but it does magic for your own confidence because you start to see like, heck yeah, like this stuff that I'm doing is actually working, it's changing lives, it's making a difference.
Right.
And you believe in it then. And when you believe in it, you show up in a different way when you finally make the offer. And people are like, yes, I've got that problem, I want that help. That's your buy phase. And during this phase, you'll do things like Facebook Lives, you'll do webinars, you may do live casts. This is not the time to hold back. You're all in. Then the fifth and final phase, and this is the most important long-term for the business, is what we call the wow phase. And the wow phase is the delivery of what it is that you are selling. And the reason this is a phase in the product launch is because my belief is that the wow phase is really the pre-launch to whatever you want to sell next.
That's good.
You knock their socks off during the delivery of this, you create an enormous amount of trust that they are going to be open to whatever you want to sell next, even if you don't know what it is.
That's right.
And so you really want to, be mindful of like, how do you craft that experience? And it's the little touches and the little surprises. And sometimes you want to hold things back. You actually don't want to tell them that you're going to include things and then surprise them and over deliver. And you really want to think through that experience because the wow phase really sets you up for whatever you want to sell next.
It's so good. And we've used this by the book. It's amazing how effective it is. Just like you said, the longer the runway, the bigger the payoff, the bigger the results. What about, Sue, as we wrap up, what about someone that they're just launching their next product, so it's not a membership site, and it might not even call for this level of runway? What are just some components that make a launch in general work that you're trying to do for just your everyday new products coming out, your new Christmas product or your new whatever? What are some things that you can do on a smaller scale that doesn't require this lift for your regular launches?
So a great example of this was a mutual friend of ours, an amazing woman, Jennifer Allwood. So Jennifer is in my highest level mastermind, and this year, at the beginning of the year, she said, okay, like I really want to take my business to the next level. And for her specifically, she was focused on her membership site. And I said, okay. And she looked at me and she's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And she was referring to like a big launch and closing the cart and everything. And then finally, I didn't say anything. I just kind of smiled. And she's like, okay, like I'm here, I'm open, tell me what I should do. Yeah. And I said, well, I think you should do a promotion for your membership. And she said, okay. And she said, but I don't have time to do all the launch videos and all the build up and all that kind of stuff. But for her, she's really great at one thing, and that's Facebook Lives. Mm-hmm. And I said, girl, you just do a Facebook Live. You do what we've talked about here, but on Facebook Live. And so there's nothing pre-recorded. It's just you leveraging Facebook Live to be able to do it. And so she followed the plan to a T. And what was amazing was that she didn't fully believe what was about to happen was going to happen. But it was all about setting the date, again, creating some anticipation beforehand. Again, that's the most important piece of this, is you want people looking forward to it. She did that. And then when she finally made the offer, it was incredible because it took her 3.5 years to get her membership to just over 700 members. And in a 1-week period, she added another 1,100 new members. And it just exploded the business. And so I share that because we can absolutely strip it down. We can make it easy. Another great example is Anna Saucier. So Anna was at our live event, Tribe Live, and she was so inspired through the stories that we were sharing. And she said, gosh darn it, like I'm gonna launch before I leave this conference. So she had a Facebook page of 600 people and an email list of, I think, just over 400 people that she hadn't communicated with in a long time. But she's like, I'm just gonna do it anyway. So she followed a script that we gave that basically said, like, I'm about to launch this new thing, and I'm looking for, in her case, like some founding members. Yeah. And if you're interested in becoming a founding member, then she didn't have anything set up. She said, just send me a direct message on Facebook. Yeah. So she posted this, and her goal was, within 24 hours, was to make $5,000. So she posted this on Facebook, and within minutes, she had a few people who reached out. And so she just sent them a PayPal link. Like, she had nothing set up, no sales page or anything, just nothing. She just sent them a PayPal link. And then within that 24 hours, it was $5,024 that she had made. Wow. And it was so simple. Facebook post, people direct messaged her, she sent them a PayPal link, and that was the beginning. And so oftentimes we get so wrapped up in making everything perfect, we just got to get it going. I heard a quote back in 2004 from a gentleman by the name of Mike Littman. He said, you don't have to get it right, you just have to get it going. That's the most important piece to the puzzle. And so starting with a beta launch or a live launch,
your
like
1.0
Jennifer,
version, just get something out there.
Just get going. The most important thing is create anticipation, then have a period where you're going to have an open cart, and then close the cart. The deadline is the most important thing. You got to close the cart. I'm sure with the launch, well, we know with the launch, the most people came in closest to the deadline. In fact, if I were to take my phone out right now, and I were to go to Instagram, I save, I don't know if I'm a marketing geek, so I save ads all the time. And what's interesting is all the ads that I've saved are all products that I absolutely would buy, but I have only ever bought one of them. And it was an electric bike. I'm a total geek, I know, but it's like this electric bike. But the reason I bought it was because it was the only product that had a deadline. And I didn't buy until I remember I was in bed with my wife Amy, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I'm like, babes, what do you think of this like electric bike? And I was like selling her out. I'm like, we really got to make a decision though, because like
they're closing. I know how this works.
Cart closes at midnight. But that is a really important thing for all of us to understand, is that a deadline moves people into action. All those other products, I have liked them. I have every intention of buying them, but I've done the kiss of death for a business owner. Is that I've said, I'll save that for later.
Yeah,
we don't want people saving things for later. We want people taking action. So you got to have a deadline. No deadline, people will put it off.
Yeah.
So in any launch, create anticipation, have a period where you open cart, and make sure you have a deadline.
That's really good. And there's so many different ways you can work with this and change it and adapt it to work for your business, regardless of your type of business, regardless of what you're launching. You know, I use this example a lot, but because I teach women all the time, you don't want to run promotions and discounts and coupons all the time. You're just going to attract people that expect promotions and do coupons and discounts. Now, if you want to run it once in a while, let it be this surprise and delight that they're like, oh, I've got to act on, because this never happens. And that's how it is with my yoga studio. They never run discounts ever. So when they do, I don't even need yoga packages. I'm like building them up because it's so rare and there's a deadline and it stops at this time. So whether it's whatever aspect of your business you want to apply this to, it's so important to create anticipation and to have a deadline. So I love that. Stu, I could talk to you forever, but I know you got to run. You got to go speak. I know people want to know how they can learn more from you and find out all the things you're doing with Tribe and helping people build membership sites. So how can they connect?
Yeah, there's really one or two ways, but one way is I would encourage people to come listen to the Marketing Your Business podcast. And so you can find out more. Yeah. Search iTunes for Marketing Your Business and Stu, or just go to marketingyourbusiness.com. And then all things Stu can be found at stu.me, stu.me.
So short, so easy to remember. The fourth grader test, they got it. I love it. Stu, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Business Boutique. I'm Christy Wright, and today I have a challenge for you. Now, many of you may have seen last fall a video circulating around of me dancing to Shake It Off in a choreographed dance with real dancers, by the way, from our Business Boutique fall event. Well, let me give you a little bit of the backstory. Now, every single event, we love to dance to Shake It Off for just a few minutes at the end of my fear talk to really drive home, you can do this, do it scared, sometimes you just gotta shake it off, right? Like, it's this fun moment. So last year, we were thinking, how can we change it up? How can we do something different that we've never done before for people that have been before that feels like a new fun surprise? So we decided to hire a flash mob of professional dancers. These dancers are going to come on stage, pretend to be attendees. I would try to get them to dance. They would act real awkward. And then at a certain moment in the song, they were going to hit the music and do their choreographed routine. It was to be determined if I was going to join them or not, because we weren't really sure how I was going to be feeling or if I could even do it. Well, leading up to the week of the event, I decided to go for it. I was like, let me learn this routine. It's like 30 seconds. I'm not a dancer, but I can hide in the back corner and they won't even notice, but it's kind of like I'm there. Then I'm not standing awkwardly off the side while all these dancers are dancing and I'm looking weird like I don't know what I'm doing, right? So it's like, I can do this. So I watched the little YouTube instructional video that the professional dancers had sent me to learn. I even called one of my very best friends, Sarah Kirkland, who is a real dancer, and asked her to come to my house to teach me this dance to make sure I could really get it right. Well, we practiced. I recorded that video and shared it as well. And going into the event, I thought, okay, this is the scariest part of the entire event for me. I know how to speak. I know how to interview. I know how to teach. I know how to put on an awesome event. I don't necessarily know how to dance with choreographed real dancers, but I thought it's fine. I'm going to hide in the back. Remember, there's a back corner with my name on it. No one will even notice me because they are going to be completely focused on the real, legit professional dancers. Well, the morning of sound check, these dancers show up. And as we're standing there, and I'm like, okay, let's all get in our spots. Y'all just show me where you're going to be. I'll kind of talk you through, the timing and how we'll pretend like you don't know how to dance and how this will all go. Well, they all backed away from the middle. And I said, who's your lead dancer? And they said, oh, she's sick. And I said, huh? I said, well, who's going to fill in? Like, who's your backup lead dancer? And they said, well, you're going to be in the middle. I said, oh, no. No. I am not a dancer. And they said, yeah. Like, this is your event. You go in the middle. None of us has practiced the middle. You have to be front and center. Y'all, I need you to know I was terrified. Like, next level terrified. Very thankful I had actually learned the move, but still scared out of my entire mind. So, of course, we do the routine. We practice it through. Everything's fine, but I'm still not feeling great because I'm like, I don't know how to dance. I don't do this. So we go through the event. This is a 3-day event. I am on stage 90% of the time at this 3-day event. And I need you to know with 100% certainty that 30 seconds was more terrifying to me than 3 full days on stage teaching and interviewing and leading this event. But y'all, when it came, I gotta be honest, I felt like Beyonce. Like, it was one of the coolest moments of the entire event. It was so much fun. The crowd completely erupted. They were so surprised and caught off guard, and it was a complete blast. Now, here is the takeaway for you. Sometimes the scariest things lead to the best things. Sometimes the things where there is so much risk lead to the greatest reward. So I don't know what that is for you. I don't know what that moment is in your business, that opportunity right in front of you where you are wanting to shrink back, hide in the corner, hide in the back, or maybe not do it at all. I could have easily said, I'm too stressed. I've got too much to learn, too much content to teach. I don't have time to learn the dance. I could have made 1,000 excuses. And I would have been right. I did have a lot to learn. I would have been totally justified in wanting to hide in the back. But you know what? I would have missed that moment. I would have missed that moment of feeling like a superstar and getting to experience being on stage in the middle of this incredible experience when the crowd erupted and we had this awesome surprise and delight moment. So my challenge for you is to do the thing. What is it for you? Maybe it's not dancing, and that's totally fine. But what is the thing that you want to shrink back from? What is the thing that you want to play it safe? You want to make excuses. You want to say, I can't. I'm too busy. I don't have time. I'm not a real dancer. I'll hide in the back. What is that thing for you? Because I promise you, even though it's scary, it might just be one of your favorite moments of all time.
We've got our next call coming in from Kimberly in Asheville. Hey, Kimberly, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. What's going on?
So my husband and I have a wedding videography business, and we are just trying to figure out when is a good time, if any, to start paying for advertising.
Okay. So it's wedding videography?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about your business. How long have you been in business? What's your client base? Like, do you have a pretty stable one, or is this kind of a side gig? What's going on?
So it's been a side gig. We've been shooting videos since 2011, but it's always just been like friends and family. We've never kind of gone outside of that. We had some kids, and now that our kids are a little bit older, we're trying to actually turn it into a profitable side hustle. We've been doing social media, and we just haven't really seen any results from what we've been doing. So we're just trying to figure out, like, how do we, find brides and like paying for advertising to actually get those people to see our work.
Gotcha, totally. Well, I'll tell you the quickest thing that you can do that I don't know how much you've utilized yet, even before you start paying for advertising, would be to really intentionally create a strategy around word of mouth marketing. Because Kimberly, even though you're creating videos, these beautiful videos, you're really in a service-based business. Because you're providing the service of capturing that day. Now, here's the thing about service-based businesses. Service-based businesses are highly referral-based, and they are highly trust-based, much more so than product-based businesses. The product, it's much more cut and dried when you are having an exchange, like I'm going to buy some toothpaste, I get the toothpaste. With the service, if you're going to have someone teach your kids piano, or if you're going to have someone clean your house, or highlight your hair, or video your wedding, it's so trust-based. Now, what's so great about that is you're in the business of relationship marketing. So you already have a client base, even if it's from years ago before you have had kids. You have a client base that can provide testimonial quotes, sizzle reels and examples of photos if they'll allow you permission to use them in their marketing, and people that can actively market for you. The thing about brides, now this wouldn't be so much 7 years ago, but current today, any recent clients that you have, people that are getting married have friends that are getting married, because people tend to get married and have babies and all that at the same stage of life. So what's so great about this is I think if you start there before you begin paying for advertising, I think you will have a higher rate of return. I think you'll have more successful efforts, much obviously lower cost. It's free.
You're right.
But you'll also have more success because these people will then talk about your business for you, bring you referrals, and that's who I want to do things for me. That's who I want to video my wedding, is someone that videoed my friend's wedding, and I loved their video. Actually, in fact, our photographer that we used was a friend that got married a year earlier, and she had the most gorgeous photos. And I remember making a mental note. I wasn't even engaged at the time. And I remember thinking, whenever I get married, I want her photographer because he was so good. And then since then, multiple other friends of mine have used him as well. So if you can build those key relationships with your brides and actively help them market for you, give them, whether it's cards or brochures or samples or whatever you need to do, set up meet and greets, bring them coffee. Like when you're at a wedding, think of all the bridesmaids and all the guests as potential market. Right? So it's like you can bring coffee for all the bridesmaids and also give them your card, like when you get married, So I would just really actively begin on working those relationships. You certainly can pay for advertising. I'll tell you a good starting point would be on Facebook, simply because it's so targeted. So you can actually target brides, people that are engaged, people that are interested in other wedding type of things. And so Facebook can have a pretty good success rate, and you can start with a very low dollar amount. You can start with like $50. You can start with a very low amount and see if it works. And then if it works, put that money back into more advertising. But do a little bit of learning about that, Kimberly, on how to target your ads. In fact, I'll tell you what I'll do. Kimberly, I have a course called Social Media Simplified. And this is where I walk you through how to use social media for your business. And there's one specific lesson in there on paid advertising, how to target it and how to use it. So I'm going to give that to you. If you'll stay on the line with Kelly, she will make sure you get that course. And if you take that course, that'll help you with taking that next step with paid advertising when you're ready. But I tell you, I think your best bet are making those key relationships with your brides. Girls love to talk. Just help them talk. Help them talk about your business, and I think that'll help. That's a great question. I love this question because sometimes when we're getting started, we think, I have to immediately pay for advertising. That's the only way to build my business. But if you are in a service-based business, I'm telling y'all, it's all about trust. When I did research a few years ago on women with businesses, all different stages of businesses, I asked people in the service-based business, I asked everyone, but specifically service-based business, I said, where do most of your clients come from? And y'all, every single person in the service-based business told me they got one key client, one key person in a neighborhood, one key person in a church, one key person in a school, and that person brought them all of their other business. So you don't know who that quote-unquote key person is, right? But you can start building relationships, because once word spreads, man, you've got a ton of business coming in. I used an example a second ago of a handyman that's doing some floors in our house right now. And he said that I'm the first person that he has done work for outside of this one neighborhood called Fredericksburg. Because why? Because once he did one house in Fredericksburg, word spread, and he was stuck in Fredericksburg for like 2 years because everyone wanted him. If you get your customers talking, especially in the service-based business, which is a trust business, you will have a ton of business coming in.